Don't buy that picks package or all access. Wait, what? Yep, don't click add to cart until you check out our new deals page at both WagerTalk and Sports Memo, where you can find all the latest offers, promotions, and coupons available all in one place. These deals are updated daily and can be found by clicking deals in the nav at WagerTalk or Sports Memo, going to wt.buzz/deals, or scanning the QR code on your screen.
Happy Monday, guys. Welcome in right here to WagerTalk TV. You're watching Puck Time. Looking forward to another great week of breaking down NHL playoff action. We are now in the second week. Of course, I'm Andrew. I have Marco D'Angelo with me today. Carm is in the air traveling. Happy to have Marco step in. And Marco is on some great runs right now, which we will get into a little bit in the show. But Marco, it's a jam-packed time to be a sports fan and sports bettor. What a weekend. Horses, NBA, NHL, MLB. There is just so much going on. How was your weekend, and what's going on for you today?
Well, all I can say is for the weekend, Andrew, this is Puck Time. Saturday's Kentucky Derby and the final strides was something that rhymes with Puck Time for me. is that second longest shot ever in the Derby come up and nipped my horse Epicenter at the wire, and we were holding a big 33-1 future ticket on Epicenter. So close, but yet so far. But here we are. We're going to do Puck Time today, and exciting time with hockey. Like you said, what a weekend. You got NBA playoffs, hockey, baseball in full swing, and then, of course, the most exciting 2 minutes in sports was Saturday as well.
Yeah, it was. I always get. I'm going to have a Prez moment here, Marco, if I can. I always get a kick out of the outfits I see there, like the crazy suits and stuff that people would wear nowhere else besides at the Kentucky Derby. Like nobody would be caught wearing those anywhere else besides at that event. But it did seem absolutely insane. I know you've had plenty of success there, and you'll continue to have it in the future, Marco. But today we're going to discuss the Rangers, Penguins, Panthers, Capitals, Flames, Stars, and the Avalanche and the Predators. Just wanted to mention before we jump into the show, first of all, just the high-scoring hockey we've seen. And I was talking with you prior to the show. I just mentioned real quick about the margin of victory, but also, even if a series is close, it doesn't mean that the games within that series has been close. Look at the Wild and Blues series, the Lightning and Maple Leaf series. It's so weird to me, Marco, no matter the sport, whether it's NBA or NHL or what it might be that has a 7-game series, every game seems to be different. How can a team play like Toronto does in game 3 and then in game 4 that happens? It's all mental stuff. It's all about going back to the video room and bouncing back. And I just find it so interesting because, we've got several series right now that are tied 2-2, but the games have pretty much all been blowouts. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, they have. And, for the most part, we talk about it in the NBA playoffs a lot, the zigzag theory. You kind of had some zigzags, in the hockey so far as well. And the other thing you've had, Andrew, with the exception of a couple games, man, if you've been an over bettor, it's been, lights out for you as well, because these games are going, over the total. In some of them, and I know you talk about it a lot, you're getting these empty net goals that, change things, but a lot of them have already been over before we start dumping empty netters in there. So, and look at yesterday. 3 of the 4 games, I think, went over yesterday. All 4 home teams, won yesterday, getting things evened up in the series. So it's crazy. I'm looking forward to tonight. And we've got a lot of games, and when we talk about it, especially, the Penguins series is one of them. I really didn't give full disclosure that one. I gave the Penguins no shot in this one without Tristan Jarry, as goalie. He entered the playoffs, being hurt, so they had to go to the backup, and then we had that epic game 1 with them. We'll talk about that more in detail when we get to that series, but we're down to a third-string goalie for the Penguins, and they have not had, good success recent years in the playoffs, and they somehow have a 2-1 lead in this series, and I'm kind of amazed. A little pissed, too, because they have the Rangers for the series.
Oh, man. Well, it's funny. I haven't really played the series too much, but back in November, I released the Pittsburgh Penguins at 8-1 to win the East. And those odds, Marco, you know how you try and get ahead of the rush a little bit? The odds didn't even change heading into the playoffs. So there was really no point for me releasing that in November. But yeah, it's going to be a very competitive series. Let's jump right into that one, Marco. The New York Rangers, the Pittsburgh Penguins, our first matchup we will discuss. We have Pittsburgh minus 105, the Rangers minus 115 here on the road. Total is at 6 in this one. We talked about how crazy this series has been. The bounce backs for each team. Will we see a zigzag type of series out of them? One thing I'll say that we saw, I mean, Marco talks about the goaltending situation for the Pittsburgh Penguins, getting Louis Domingue, the third stringer, some action, which was just, and he came out in overtime too, after he talked about eating a full meal in the locker room. It's never a dull moment, but we actually found out that Igor Shesterkin is human. Alexander Georgiev comes into the game for Igor Shesterkin in game 3. Of course, we will see Shesterkin again tonight. But the thing is with both these teams, Marco, I just think there's talent throughout the lineups for both. I don't think that there's a couple guys that are going to win a game, and that's something that I talk about a lot in my handicapping with hockey, is that in playoffs, you can't rely on a few players. And that's really why the Pittsburgh Penguins won last game, is that they had guys, there's Evan Rodriguez, a player that, younger player that had a great game. And Jeff Carter, some guys like that. Whereas the Rangers, they were kind of relying on their top guys. But, I hate to even talk about this quote, the expression zigzag theory, but it's not really like we're using a theory. I just think the bounce back effect is more applicable. How about that expression, Marco? Can we change the zigzag to bounce back effect? I like how that sounds a bit better, but I believe that New York will bounce back after that effort we saw from them and get the job done on the road.
Yeah, and whatever, you want to call it, bounce back, zigzag, either way, Andrew, the premise of it to me and why I've always liked looking at it is the team that won, okay, when you go back into the locker room and you go to the chalkboard to devise your game plan for the next game, what do you change? You just won. You're not going to change what worked. But if you're the team that lost, you're the one that's going back to the drawing board. You're making changes. And, then the other team has to adjust to you. And that's why I think we see this. And especially, I like it better the further you get into the playoffs, because as you eliminate teams, you're supposed to have the better teams advancing and things are more even. And you see this happen even more often. But this is happening in the first round here, which tells you top to bottom, from 1 to 8, they fight all year and you earn your points and everything else. But, sometimes there's really not that big of a difference between these teams. Now, with tonight's game, here's the thing. The Penguins are up 2-1. You could very easily say, if you don't get that great tip in the first game from Malkin, that was just absolutely perfect. The puck hit his stick at just the right angle, and it careens into just inside the post in overtime. Either team could have won that first game. There was a controversial call in that game as well. So that first game, you flip the coin. Now you look at game 3. Now the Rangers came back strong in game 2, which you expected them to do. They bounced back in a big way. Then in game 3, coming back home, you got the third string goalie, Louis Domingue, in there for the Penguins. The Penguins get a win. If you look at just the final score, it was 7-4, and you think that the Penguins dominated that game. They did anything but dominate that game. They dominated the first period, and as you said, they made a goalie change at the end of the first period. You don't see that happen a lot, but they did. Backup comes in and plays a masterful game. This game, they fight their way back. It's a 4-4 game well into the third period. We were at the 9-minute mark left in the game just under the 9-minute mark, before the Penguins pushed one across to get that 5-4 lead. Then they got 2 empty netters to make it look like it was a lopsided game, and it wasn't. So we had 2 of these games that basically were almost coin flips. And how often are you going to see the goalie for the Rangers have a first period like he had last time? And I do like the Rangers bouncing back here, because when you've got a goalie of that caliber and has an outing like that, generally they're going to bounce back in a big way. I do the same thing in baseball. When you get a big veteran pitcher that goes out there and has one of those outings where he doesn't make it out of the first or second inning, and he's an established pitcher, you can pretty much guarantee he's going to come back in the next game, with a huge effort. And that's what I'm expecting tonight. And then we look at the Penguin goalie, Domingue. Yes, he came in, no chance to prepare, come in cold off the bench in that first game in the middle of the second overtime and stopped 17 shots. Since then, he's not been that good. He's given up 9 goals in the 2 games that he played. That's not going to get it done tonight with the effort I'm expecting from the Rangers. I like the Rangers in this one to bounce back, zig or zag, whatever you want to do. This one's going to go back to New York at 2-2.
It is one hell of a series, and I agree with a lot of stuff you just said there, Marco. I'm a huge fan of how you end a game, whether or not you win the game or lose. Like you talked about, the Pittsburgh Penguins had a great first period. But first of all, hats off to the coaching staff for kind of having the cojones to pull Igor Shesterkin, because it's hard to pull an MVP caliber goalie like that after one period. And like you said, after that, it was pretty much all Rangers. Something important to mention as well in this series, there's been a lot of penalties called in the playoffs, more than usual. I don't have the stats for everybody, but there's been a lot more penalties this playoffs. Rangers went 0 for 3 last game. Penguins went 2 for 3. Rangers had one of the best power plays in the league during the regular season. Kreider, Zibanejad, all those guys have so much talent out there. They won't go 0 for 3 again, especially with a guy like Adam Fox, leading the way on that power play. The total sits at 6 here, fellas, and I think that we're going to – everybody out there, could you bet the under in this game? I mean, I don't know. Ask yourself, if you think that after a 7-4 game, they adjust it from 5.5 to 6. I can't see a low-scoring game between these two. What I could see is a low-scoring start. I think we'll see a good start from both goaltenders and good defense. I'd love if this drops down to 5.5. If you can in-game this, get it down to 5.5, save that half, get that half goal, and get over 5.5. But let's jump into our next one. Looks like Marco. I'm used to Carm. Looks like Marco and I are both on the same page. A little more hair though, Marco, with you than Carm. We won't tell him that, but I'm sure he'd like to have the hair on his. But yeah, we're on the same page there with the Rangers. Let's jump into our next game here with the Florida Panthers and the Washington Capitals. Florida -180, the Washington Capitals +150 here in this one. The total sits at 6.5. And when I take a look at this game, we find a Washington Capitals team now playing at home in Game 4. They lead this series 2-1. And, this is a series where not a lot of people gave them a chance. I mean, not a lot of people gave the Washington Capitals, really any credit going into this. You look at a little bit of a slump that they had, some injuries they went through during the regular season, and maybe they finished lower in the standings than they should have, or didn't get as many points as they should have. But whatever it may be, they weren't the team this year that everybody thought they were going to be. And now in the playoffs, they have showed their experience. They've showed the amount of guys they have that can step up. And they've also proven their physicality. And, what I'm about to say, I mean, Marco, this kind of applies to everything, whether it's NFL, NBA, NHL. When you've got that team that for several years has a good team, they get to the postseason, but you kind of have to go through, the toughness and kind of the sad losses and the adversity before you can get over that hump. And we saw with the Tampa Bay Lightning, we saw with the Washington Capitals, even the Pittsburgh Penguins when Crosby first went there, but it wasn't for that long for him, I guess. But what I'm trying to say is that Florida, it was a bad read on my part. I took them -1.5 games in the series, and you can tell that they're a little bit shocked by the playoff hockey versus regular season. And a team that had to come back in so many games during the regular season, we're finding out that they aren't really trustworthy defensively. And which is why I'm going to look towards the team total over 3.5 for the Florida Panthers. just because I want to take the Washington Capitals out of the picture, Marco. I don't want to worry about what they do in this game as much as the effort I'm going to get from Giroux, Bennett, Verhaeghe, and Barkov and those guys. When Carter Verhaeghe is your best player right now, it's kind of like your fourth man in the NBA, being your highest scorer. It just can't happen. And that's what we're seeing right now with them. I'm all about depth, but sometimes on the other side too, you need your top guys to be your top guys. And we haven't really seen that yet from the Florida Panthers. So I'm looking at a total, but it's a team total here, Marco. What are your thoughts in this matchup?
Yeah, that's a good take on the game, Andrew. I can't disagree with you with Florida and the over, or for taking the team total over. This is a team that I'm very familiar with from my days of all those years with the Penguins. The Penguins, it seemed like every year, somewhere during the playoffs, it came down to Pittsburgh and Washington, and Ovechkin, Crosby, you had those things. And the one thing that was always different is Washington, yes, they are that physical team. They are the veteran team as far as the playoffs go. And, you hit the nail on the head about Florida. I say that in the NBA all the time, that when you get one of those teams that makes that, becomes the new kid on the block, makes that run into the playoffs, it's a learning process. They got to get over that hump. And that is definitely where Florida's at. This has been a team that has been fun to watch all year. I look at them and I categorize them as a finesse team that can score a ton of goals. But if you smack them in the mouth, it's like, the bully on the schoolyard. They have a glass jaw sometimes. And right now, Florida is shell-shocked. But if you look down the stretch, this is a team that did not play well. Now, throw out the last game of the season against Montreal. That was a complete, mail-in game for them. But, they did lose 5 of their last 7 games down the stretch. What was more concerning about that was this is a team that gives up a lot of goals. And you got a lot of high-scoring games with them because they can score themselves. And I can't tell you how many times that I used Florida this year, and I looked up and they were down 2 goals after the first period, or 3 goals into the second period, and I write it off and come back and look, and what they got the win. So they
never make it look so easy doing that too, Marco.
Yeah, the thing of it is they're never out of a game. You can't write them out. And given the circumstances tonight, as bad as they've looked in the 2 losses, they're just 1 game away from being right back to home ice advantage. And I think you're going to see a big effort out of them tonight, and I think they get the job done. Now, will I get to the window with Florida in this game? No, because I'm not going to lay that big of a price on the road with a team that's, struggling at the moment, losing 5 of their last 7 games. And a team that's as veteran as Washington is, you don't generally see a team in home in the playoffs this big of a dog. So my opinion here is Florida. I like your thinking the way you're going here, because if you like Florida, Florida's not winning a 2-1 game. Okay, that's
exactly.
that's not the style they play. So there's always, and this is my least favorite saying, but people use it all the time. There's more than one way to skin a cat, and you're attacking this game a different way, and makes sense because it goes right into the same picture that I'm looking at. I like Florida in this game. That would be the way to do it with the team total. So an opinion for me on Florida, maybe hook them up in a money line parlay I could do. The math is still the same, but the math is different. If I lose the wager, I only lose 1 unit, okay? That's where the math is different. If you're watching my buddy Brian Leonard, we have this discussion all the time.
We have that with him on Thursdays too. And what's so interesting, Marco, and about just the great team of handicappers at WagerTalk, but everybody's different. Everybody has a different way of looking at things, the way they approach situations, or the math and the handicapping. And it's really cool to me as someone that gets to talk to different people every week, that everybody approaches a game differently. So I'm happy that you agree with me though on that, and we're on the same page. And hey, I wouldn't mind tossing Florida on a money line parlay either. I think they're going to bounce back, but do you want that juice factor? I don't know if I do. And you talk about those comebacks. It was unbelievable. Like, they led the league in comebacks, I believe, with 23, and they had 4 comebacks of 4 goals or more in the season, something of that nature. It's just crazy what they do. But unfortunately, that lack of defense has transitioned into the playoffs. Marco has a 4% high roller NBA play up, #1 NBA capper in the playoffs. Congratulations to that great start. Marco, 15-7 record start to the playoffs in the NBA. NBA playoffs have been great as well. They've been super exciting to watch. That Miami-Philadelphia series, I know our producer is happy about how that got tied up. So it's a great one, and looking forward to the rest of that. But best of luck, Marco. Grab that 4% NBA high roller play. And guys, every single play over at WagerTalk.com listed for $9 today. $9 Monday. And all the plays aren't for just today. Could be a play for tomorrow or for Wednesday. Especially moving into football season, you want to take advantage of $9 Monday and get that play early for the best price you possibly can. Let's keep things rolling here. Keep the train on the tracks with the Calgary Flames visiting Dallas and taking on the Stars. Marco, you just talked about a home team with a plus price like this. Well, how about Dallas as plus 140? Home underdogs. Calgary minus 165. The puck line plus 170. And the total at 5.5 in this one. If you are a total bettor, and if you had the over in the last meeting between these two teams, I apologize for your loss, because I believe it was like a minute left to go or something like that. That's tough. But whether it, wins or loses, this series has been a very low scoring one, a low event one, and just an absolute, sleeper if you don't like high scoring games. I can get up for those, but what I don't like is seeing the top guys, not just on Calgary, but even a little bit on Dallas, not performing to their potential. Marco, Calgary had 4 30-goal scorers this year in the regular season. I thought this was the deepest roster I've seen them have in 3 years, pretty much since I've been a part of WagerTalk, and I haven't really been impressed with what I've seen from them. It's always a tough situation like this. I wouldn't compare them exactly to the situation Florida's in, but I would say that, Calgary, I'm more worried about their offense than I would say with Florida, because I thought they had so much all over the ice, and Dallas has done a great job containing them. What are your thoughts when you look at this game here and you approach Dallas and Calgary tonight?
Well, this is a breath of fresh air. This is old school hockey, Andrew. This is what you're supposed to see in the playoffs. Yeah. These 2-1, 3-2 type of games. And yes, if you did have the over in the last one, prayers and condolences to you. That was just, I think there was just seconds left when that empty netter got there. But look at this series. Throw out the 4 goals, like you said there. You had 1 goal in the first game. You had 2 goals in the second game, and then you had 6 goals in the third game. All right. 1 was an empty netter in the third game, and in the second game, 1 was an empty netter. We've had no goals in this series, and I think you're going to see another defensive type game here tonight. And part of that is because you've got a red hot goaltender for Dallas. Ottinger, I should say, is standing on his head right now in this series, the way he's playing. You accompany that with the fact that heading into the playoffs, prior to the 3 games that Calgary played against Dallas here, go back to the final 2 games of the regular season. At Winnipeg, 1 goal scored. At Minnesota, 2 goals scored. This is now 5 straight games where they've scored 2 goals or less. I can't back a team that's not scoring right now, especially, on the road in this game, especially at the price that they're laying. Now, we talked about, Washington being a big home dog. I'm going to take a shot with the home dog here with Dallas. Calgary, a lot of pressure on them right now because this is, I don't want to say it's the season going down 3-1 and then returning home is, still is a bad situation, but it's not as bad as a team that loses the first game at home and then is in that must win when you're down, you can't go down 0-2 and go on the road. So it wouldn't be the death sentence for Calgary, but it is putting a lot of pressure on them. And I look at here, and we talk about the goalie for Dallas. He's 22-6, Andrew, this year at home when he starts. Dallas, 22-6. That's a big number to ignore at this price. So for me, it's almost like a plus EV play. Even though, Calgary needs to win this game, I can't do it. I've got the better goalie right now. I've got the other team that's struggling to score, and you've got a dynamite home stat like that. Throw another one at you. Dallas this year, when they're coming off a win in a game that they scored 4 goals or more, they're 9-2 this season at home. For me, this is a value play. I'm taking Dallas.
Awesome stuff. They're looking at that great price, and it's hard to blame you for the way they've played a full effort and a full 60 minutes. Ottinger has been outstanding. And Marco, we try to stick to just betting talk. We've had our fun, chirping at players or teams, and we've had our fun on this show making fun of the Dallas Stars, and they're just slapping myself in the face. I won't say Carm. I know he's actually watching apparently right now in the air, 30,000 feet above, but I won't throw him into this category, but I will throw myself under the bus and say I have, completely counted them out in the regular season, but then you come into the playoffs, some teams are just built for it. They play better defensively. You get a hot goaltender, and you talk about the old school hockey, which I like that kind of hockey. They're built for those low-scoring games. And then you mentioned that stat there after a game of scoring 4 goals. If you tell me in a lot of games that if the Dallas Stars score 4 goals, I'll tell you they won it, because all they need, I think, are 3, and they just have that protective cushion, and the coach will tell them to play, a trap in the middle, and they lock things down. And, that's what's impressive about the Dallas Stars. And I've talked about how power plays and penalties have impacted totals and games in general. You take a look at the last game between these two teams. The Stars went 1 for 4 on the power play, and we saw the Calgary Flames, who during the regular season top 5, went 0 for 4 on the power play. So special teams definitely make a huge difference in the playoffs. We're just not seeing that from really either team in this one. I will say this. I'm going to throw this out there because I keep on wanting to call you Carmine. I apologize, Marco. Because
it's the big forehead.
My apologies. But when we look at this game, we can actually both win this wager. I'm looking at Calgary in the first period, because I really think that, if they win the first period, they could win the game. But if Dallas goes out and wins the first period, they're going to play that same style of hockey that a lot of people hate to watch. Some people look at next team to score and stuff like that. I truly believe, and this might sound like I'm exaggerating, but if the Dallas Stars get the first goal, they're going to feel comfortable, confident, trust their goaltender, and just sit back and play defense. They do not care one bit if this game finishes 1-0. I'm not saying it will, but the difference between which team gets the first goal, I think will decide, of course, the side and actually the total in this game. I was saying I was on VSiN a couple days ago, Marco. It was an exciting experience for me, and we were saying that if you see Dallas score the first goal, maybe take the in-game under immediately, because they're going to get that goal and protect their lead as best as they can. So, hey, maybe if I get Calgary to win the first period, you can cash your dog price and we can hit the full game on them. We've done that before on the show. I've hit a first period total that was the opposite of Carm's full game total. So how about that? Calgary wins the first period and you can cash your plus price full game.
I can't disagree with you there. Another thing, because of the style that Dallas does play, they might be a candidate to look at taking the puck line on the plus, plus 1.5 goals. But one thing I want to say about Dallas, and you guys said that you didn't make some fun of them coming into the playoffs and so forth, and the full body of work, I can't argue with that. But one thing that a lot of people, I think, overlooked, Dallas entering the playoffs was already in playoff mode for the final 10 games of the season. If you remember them in the Vegas Golden Knights, it was back and forth on, chasing down that last playoff spot. And I think that's what made them come into the playoffs and get this quick start. I've seen it in other years. If you remember several years back in baseball, St. Louis Cardinals did that and ran it to a World Series where they had to fight, basically almost to the last day of the season. For them, it was the last day of the season that they got into the playoffs, where Dallas, it was like the next to last when they had that head-to-head meeting against Vegas, and they got to overtime. All they needed was to get to overtime in that game, and it was done for the Golden Knights pretty much. So, that's part of the reason why I think they're already playoff tested. And, Calgary maybe come in just a little bit. I got to use it once on your show. A little fat and sassy.
I like it, Marco. I've been stealing it from you on every show I do. It just works. Let's face it. It just applies. It works. And maybe they have. And like you said, Dallas, pretty much the opposite. They've come in acting like they've played already two rounds of the playoffs. So great. There's great stuff there. I agree with you completely. And it should be a great battle between these two teams. And I'd be shocked if we see anything but a low scoring affair between these two tonight, though. Old school hockey, as Marco mentioned. You can find both of us at WagerTalk.com. $9 Monday. Every single play we have up for grabs listed for $9. Marco has a 4% NBA play up for tonight. Remind you guys, we have 3-day, 7-day, 30-day passes available as well. I'm running pretty hot in the MLB and NHL as well. So, hey, Marco, it's $9 Monday, but we always try and say, hey, if you want to come on for longer than a day, the 3-day, 7 days, all that stuff, you can find us. And, you do a lot of sports. I do a lot of sports. Somebody buys a day pass even, you're getting more than just the one play. We have one more game to break down, then we'll get into some show best bets at the end of the show here. Colorado and Nashville. The only series in the first round of the playoffs that has a 3-0 series lead for a team, and that team are the Colorado Avalanche. They've been the Cup favorites all year long. There's been lots of pressure on them to get over that second round hump all year long. And they've built a team full of great defensemen, stay-at-home defensemen, offensive pieces. They pick up Arturi Lehkonen from my Montreal Canadiens, who has 2 goals now in the first round. He plays a great two-way game. Then you look at Nashville. What do they bring to the table right now? And I think what they're bringing is, a goaltender that's just tired of getting peppered with shots, at rapid fire all game long. And you can only withstand that for so long. Marco, when I describe the Nashville Predators, I describe them as kind of a gritty team, but a gritty team with only a handful of offensive weapons. And if you want to go toe-to-toe with the Avalanche, you better have more than a few weapons. And I feel like they're kind of bringing a knife to a gunfight when they play the Colorado Avalanche. Colorado has outscored them 16-6 in this series. I'll ask you, plain and simple, do you think this series ends tonight?
It absolutely does end tonight, Andrew. This is a spot. Now, we've got the situation with the Colorado goaltender, Kemper. It was a scary situation on Saturday in that game. He's okay. I was swollen shut yesterday, so you're most likely not going to see him tonight. But that, to me, is better, because what that does is I think it gets the rest of the team focused. The only thing you have to worry about when you get a team up 3-0 is, do they mail the game in? Do they, take their foot off the gas, maybe not be as focused, whatever. I think they will be focused tonight if they have the backup in Francois. This is a spot where, as you said, Nashville, they're Colorado scoring, from everywhere against them. And excuse the pun, it's been an offensive avalanche, coming at them. And I think you're going to see that again tonight. I don't see any heart in this Nashville team we don't want to be swept, on our home ice. No, they don't want to go back to Colorado for one game and, just get, blown out there. If they fall behind in this game, this could get extremely ugly, because they will quit, in my opinion. I like Colorado. How do you want to play it? Do you want to play it, lay the big price? Do you want to use Colorado on a money line? Do you want to go regulation and bring it down to about $1.50? Or do you want to go puck line? I think the best ways to go here is either the regulation, because I don't see them as, having the heart to stay in this game. But with that said, and me and you talked before we came on the show that, because of all the offensive talent that Colorado has and the way the Nashville goalies have been peppered in this series, there's going to be an empty netter most likely at the end of this game somewhere, unless it's such a blowout that they never pull the goalie. You're down, if you're down 4 goals, you're not going to get that. So it doesn't matter either. Puck line's probably the best way to go, the best value play for Colorado, minus the 1.5. So I'll have some combinations there mixed in there, but there will be no Nashville on my ticket.
Not on mine either, and Nashville is a team that, that overtime game was theirs to win. Connor Ingram had a great game. He's the backup for them, stood on his head. He's a third string, so he's another third string goaltender playing in the playoffs. Stood on his head and couldn't get the win. His team couldn't get it for him. It's tough to see there. But yeah, Marco, with the NHL playoffs, especially started really 3 years ago, I started doing this. I would just find these elimination games and I would bet third periods over like it was my day job. Like it was the only thing that I was going to do that whole day. I was ready for it. And you bet the third period over. And sometimes I would do a combo bet with like a half unit on 1.5 and half unit on, the 2.5 or something like that. But these elimination games, you can either count on, number one, an empty net goal, like Marco just mentioned, or number two, you can count on just the tactics changing. A defenseman jumping into the rush to either help his team score, or they're going to end up getting scored on because they're going to be undermanned the other way. There's so many different things you look at in a third period, but there's also prop bets out there where you can look at which period will be the highest scoring period. I'm not reaching here with this stuff. I've made money with these in elimination games, betting on third period to be the highest scoring period. So I like that quite a bit. I'll be looking at the puck line in this one. I was telling you before the show, I'm not a puck line guy. I think I might have the worst record in history of sports betting with puck lines. So I try and stay away from the Marco. But in elimination games, you look at this and I expect to see a marginal victory from the Colorado Avalanche. And, real quick, just looking at some of these guys on the Avalanche, I've talked about some props to you guys on the show, and I do have one again for best bet here at the end of the show. But, with Colorado, you can take McInnis to score. I mean, he's scored, I think, every game this series so far, and it's like plus 120, which is unbelievable. Best player on that team. But I talked about a guy, Devon Toews, to you guys. I've talked about Burakovsky. I've talked about Nichushkin, all these guys that might not be household names. And that's what I'm trying to bring to you is some guys you're going to get to score at point props at minus 110, 120, 125. And, I mentioned Toews at the start of the series to score a point. He was minus 110. Then he went 25. Then he went 30. The guy's up to like 145 now just to get a point from the start of the series. And whether it's been a point, a goal, or whatever he's been doing, he's been getting the job done. And that's what's so great about this Colorado team. And also what's great about how, the betting industry is moving is that, Marco was talking earlier about how I had that team total with Florida. There's so many different ways you can approach a game now between team totals, sides, the prop bets, Marco, during football season at WagerTalk on Monday, you look at the yesterday's plays option, with what people had going on Sunday, you see a whole mixed bag of running back props, this team first half. It's just, there's so many options now with sports betting. And with the price we see with the money line for Colorado, I think it's been one of the better series to look towards props, just because of how big of favorites they've been. But I guess, it's kind of like you look at this Colorado team and they're heavy favorites all year to win the Cup and the West. But I guess we're kind of seeing why they were that.
Yeah, and since, just to add there, you look at Nashville, since they lost their starting goalie, the last 8 games, they've given up 41 goals Okay, over the last 8. That's over
Wow.
5 goals. So think about it when you're talking about player props. That's 5 different players that have scored, or 5 different opportunities to score a goal. That's 5 different opportunities for assist, for point. Yes, if you're looking at anything in this series, this is one where you are looking at all the over type props.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a great stat there, and that's great information for people looking out there. And again, you look at the price on the money line for Colorado tonight, and you look at their best player, McInnis, on what his price has been all series long to score a goal, and it's plus 120. So you're laying a couple dollars on a team to win the game, or you can take their best player to score a goal at plus money, and he's done it in every game this series so far. Great to have you on the show, Marco. Great to talk some hockey. I know you're rolling in hockey and the NBA, some great NHL runs as well, but a 4% play up tonight, NBA high roller. I'll have to ask you after the show what that play is. You're running pretty hot. Number 1 playoff NBA handicapper at WagerTalk. Anything else to promote? And of course, just a best bet off you if we can.
Yeah, knock on wood, Andrew. I've been winning in all 3 sports. That number 1 ranking in the NBA playoffs is on win percentage, where you're hitting 68% in the playoffs. You can pick that game up tonight, but we've been rolling in hockey all season. Baseball's off to a great start. And the start we had this year with the season we had last year, going back to last year, we are the number 2 overall baseball handicapper at WagerTalk in Money One. So check that out. Grab a 7-day all access. You won't miss anything. But it's a good run. And we got a best bet. Is it best bet time, or what are we doing here? Best bet time. Well, I was going to come on the show sporting my Sidney Crosby jersey and Penguin hat today, but that would have sent mixed feelings, because my best bet is the New York Rangers tonight. And the reason being is, the Penguins down to the third string quarterback. Yes. Down to the third string goalie tonight. He got the job done in overtime, but he's not been sharp since then. 9 goals in 2 games. I'm going to take the Rangers to bounce back tonight. I have them is my top play for tonight's card. And I saved one stat for you. We already talked about this game, but I had to have something for the best bet segment. The Rangers are 9-1 this season when they're revenging a road loss. That's what they're in tonight. And they're 14-2 after 2 or more consecutive games that went over the total this season. So you got 2 angles that also support the Rangers. And then to me, it's just the eye test. This is a 2-1 series in favor of the Penguins that very easily could be 2-1 the other direction, or even 3-0 the other direction. If they got the 2 empty netters the other night, making that game look lopsided when it was anything but.
Marco D'Angelo, WagerTalk.com co-founder. Thank you so much for your time, Marco. Great to have you on today. I'm sure Carm appreciates it, as he's about to have a few cervezas in the air and go on a vacation and have a good time. And here we are working. I mean, must be nice. No. All jokes aside, we'll have Carm back tomorrow and the rest of the week. He is not stopping working, that's for sure. My best bet, guys, is going to be Carter Verhaeghe to get a point, over 0.5 points, minus 110. He's a second line player for the Florida Panthers. I mentioned he's actually leading the league, or the team, in scoring in this series. He's playing with Claude Giroux and Sam Bennett, 2 guys that I think have to get going. So if they do that, I'm sure we'll see Verhaeghe a part of that. I have a 5% up tonight in the NHL, guys. I'm on a 29-10 all sports 5% run, and plus 180 units in 2022 all sports. We'll try and keep things going tonight. Carmine, he has sent in a best bet for us, though, with the Rangers and Pittsburgh Penguins first period over 1.5. Marco D'Angelo, once again, New York Rangers minus 110. And I have Carter Verhaeghe over 0.5 points, minus 110. Thank you so much to Marco for joining me. On behalf of him and our producers, I'm Andrew, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Each and every Monday is $9 Monday at both WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, when all daily picks packages are priced at only $9, including 5% best bets, normally priced at $35. As an added bonus, any picks packages loaded early for Overnight Tuesday or action during the week will also be priced at $9 until midnight on Monday. So make sure to take advantage of getting these $25 and $35 picks for only $9 before the clock strikes 12 and they return to regular